Okay, thank you for the introduction. Can you hear me well, everyone? Okay, perfect. Come on. No. One more second. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so my name is Marcin Głowacki, and around 10 years ago or even more, I've been working as backend developer. I've been implementing different services for enterprise payments, and it was a very cozy place to work. I've got my services, I've got the frameworks that I know. It was J2E, it was Spring, not so popular back then, but it has been evolving, and everything was perfect. On one day, my manager came to me and told me, "Hey Marcin, there is a new project that will happen." I was excited. Wow, what it will be about? It will be about this and that and that and that. And the last sentence made me worried because he told me that, and you need to create some interface for it in the browser. You know, make it modern, make it accessible, make it responsive as much as possible. And I was like, okay, cool, so give me the front-end developer. And they will do that, you know the requirements, everything will go fine. And he was like, the point is that I cannot give you anyone. But we are the team only of Java developers. There were like four or five of us, all Java developers, seniors, mid-level. And there was a problem. We've got a task. We needed to implement the application that will have the modern and good-looking user interface in the browser, and what to do with that. So we started to digging out different information about existing frameworks back then, and it got really complicated. The things made us worry what framework, what kind of bundling, how to run those stuff. And the biggest problem was that none of us had a good experience back then to work with the front-end technologies. Everyone knows HTML, but when it goes to the more complex applications, it got more difficult. So we started to dig up information, if it's possible, to have something full stackish only for the Java developers. We found some frameworks, and one of the frameworks that we started to investigate was Vaadin. So, what if I tell you that front-end development does not need to be so difficult, especially for backend developers? So, if the backend developer creates the application that goes from browser to the service, we call it full stack because it contains everything. So why to do a full stack approach? Because if a single team can do a full stack, it will ship the software much faster with good quality. In a normal approach, when you design a system, when you pick the front-end stuff, the frameworks, libraries, the components that you will use, and you've got the services running in the background, in the backend, you need to organize the communication between one and another. Yeah, of course, it gives you a control. You know what's or do not know. You know what's happening in the front end. Yeah, it's cool, but it requires a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of people probably who knows how to do it. In the full stack approach, you can ship everything much faster. Knowing only the single layer of the whole stack, backend in our case, you can do everything. We made a survey some time ago and asked our developers how the full stack approach, what is your opinion about the full stack approach? And almost everyone confirmed that the productivity has increased while working on the technology that you know, which is the Java in the backend, and the front end being generated automatically. Of course, it's related to time saving, and from the management perspective, the most important is that we are saving costs, because a single team can have everything. So, I will present you the framework called Vadin, which I'm the engineer in. We'll go very quickly through it, and then I will show you some hands-on. So, in Vadin, we are talking about the components. The components are used to build your application. They've got nice-looking web components in your browser and the full Java API in the backend. You want a button? You create a button like this, new button. You want a date picker? Sure, use a date picker component. You want a grid? Of course, we have grid for given bin. And the components can be organized into layouts. Layouts are also the components that have the child components in them. So you want a column? We are using the vertical layout component to create a column. You want a row? No problem. You can use the horizontal layout to create a row. You want a buff? Why not? You can put one layout into another. Because the components have a tree structure, so it doesn't matter which one you put where. It will be it will be rendered as you wish. Okay, having a component that is a layout, you can simply make a view from that layout component just by adding an annotation. That annotation tells the router in the front end in your browser navigator to handle the requests for hello and serve the given resource from the backend. In our case, is the hello world view. Simple. Then how to handle events. We are talking about the backend all the time. We are not touching the front end. So by simple adding different listeners to our component on the backend, we will handle all kind of events. Okay, the best part is that it's for free, it's open source, you can use it. You can use it on your commercial applications, of course, and you can always contribute, which is great. Okay, so let's do something. I will start by creating empty Spring application. Are you familiar with Spring Initializer? Anyone? Oh, okay, perfect. So in Spring Initializer, you essentially build a Spring Boot application by picking the dependencies that you want to be used in your application. So we need some persistence, so JPA, of course. We need some database. It will be in memory H2 database. We will use OpenAI client in one example. And of course, we need Vadin. Having such stack, I can now generate the application, open it. Come on. Okay, unpack it and see what's inside that downloaded application. Okay, no surprise, it's empty. There is only a single entry point. The class with main method annotated with Spring Boot application. For those who are familiar with Spring Boot, it's like obvious starting point while creating your application. Because I've added the OpenAI dependency. Can I what? Why? For people to see. Oh, I can zoom in. Better? because I will be toggling, I will be switching windows, so I don't know if the presenter mode will help a lot. Okay, let's get back. So because I've added OpenAI dependency, I need to add the API key, which I have in my environment variables. Okay, and in general, that's it to have a application running. Okay, voila. So what you see here is the entry point of the empty Vaadin application. We can create views by using those helpers, but I will do it manually to show you how it works. So yeah, that one is not needed. Okay, so as I said, we need a layout. Let's call our view hello view. So if the class extends the layout, it can be made a view. Of course, you can extend the button, but I don't know if there's a point of having a view from the single component of the button. Maybe there will be a use case for that, but I don't know. So, okay, I like to put things in a column layout, so I will use the vertical layout. And as mentioned before, I need to mark my layout class with the root annotation to make it accessible from the URL. Okay, so let's recreate the button and input text that was in the on the slides a few minutes before. So let's add the text field. Yeah, let's call it name field, new text field, name. Let's add a button. Hello. Now let's add those to our application. During the demo, I will be using the hot swap agent. If you're not familiar with hot swapping, the changes will be deployed without restarting the application, mostly. Hot swap agent is free, is for free, so you can use it, of course. There is also JRebel. It works slightly better, but you need to pay for JRebel. Hot swap agent is for free. And as the initial configuration of hot swap agent is pretty complex because you need to put some run parameters, some dependencies, copy jar from here to there. There is also the Vaadin IDE plugin for IntelliJ, VS Code, and Eclipse that does it automatically for you. So in run options, you will see just another one, debug using hot swap agent. Okay, and we will use it through the demo. Now, when I have the single view in my application, I don't have the warning that, hey, you have nothing, please create a view. There is an error from Navigator. It's a debug mode, so we see errors that list as available routes. So let's go to hello, and you see my two components in the view. They, of course, do nothing because I've just placed them like as is. So let's handle the click. To handle the click on the button, we need to add listener. The names are pretty obvious, so add click listener. And after after clicking, we want to add new paragraph with a text hello, and we are getting the value from the field. Okay, the changes have been hot reloaded. I didn't restart the application. And now when I press hello, when I click hello, you see the content is appended to the view. Okay, to prove that I'm not cheating, let's put a breakpoint here. And you can see that when I press button, the code goes here. So the event is handled on the server side. If we look inside the network tab to check what's happening, you will see that when you change something on the browser, there is a call to the backend to inform our backend part that something has changed in the frontend, because the state from the frontend to the backend is synchronized. You see there is an event that there is a new value on the field, and if I click a button, there is another request that says, hey, the button has been clicked. And in response, we've got the instructions for the front end, what should happen. So in this case, we should append the paragraph with a text. Perfect, that worked. Okay, let's create something more fancy. So what it would be if I'm not using the grid. Let's create an entity. Let's call it customer. It will be JPA entity. I need identifier, of course, for that one. Yeah, created ID. Okay, perfect. Okay, let our customers have first name, last name. Okay, that one is cool. Email is fine. Now let's use the local date for the birth date. Not to make it so boring with only strings. Birth date. Okay, perfect. Okay, now we need empty constructor for that one. And we need a bunch of getters and setters. So let's create them. Okay, nice. We've got an entity. To make it work, I need some repository, I need some example data source, data set. So in the meantime, when I will be coding a view, I will ask Claude to create the JPA repository and the example data for a customer by me. So I'm just calling Claude, hey, initialize Spring JPA repository with 100 random customers. Go. I hope it won't ask me for anything, but okay. Okay, so now we want to list those customers in favorite component for many customers view. Okay, so we're starting same way, creating new view. It will be again the vertical layout. It will have a root annotation, so we can enter it. And then we need a grid. We need a grid. Grid is really cool component. If I initialize grid like that, it will be pretty dummy. It does not know nothing. But when I put my bin as a constructor parameter, customer, the grid will be rendered by default as you will see in a moment. Let the application, as I mentioned, the hot swap is not perfect. When you create new files, those are not hot swapped by default. So from time to time, yeah, I still need to restart my application. Okay, we have a grid. It's empty because I do not put any data in it. But as you can see, there are already some columns here. Those columns are found by the grid by introspecting the bin that I've put as a parameter. So those are the fields of a bin in the order, I think I've alphabetically by default. Okay, the one thing I didn't do, I did not change the look and feel of the application. Now it looks pretty raw. It's the default one. But in Vaadin, we have two default themes. The one that was previously is called Lumo, and the new one that is shipped from since version 25, it's called Aura. To set a theme, we need to configure application that is Vaadin specific. So we need to implement something called app shell configurator. Those are the additional instructions for Vaadin how the application should be configured. And here I can import my style sheet. And for Aura, it will be Aura style sheet. Okay. Now, when the application reloads, you will see that the fields look slightly different. Okay. Fonts are different, the styles are different. Okay. Let's get back to grid. Now grid also looks different. Yeah. Okay. The order of the columns is like that. If I want to reorder the columns, I can do it manually by calling grid set columns. And now I want to put them in different order, like ID, first name, last name, email, and birthday, which is cool. After a hot reload, you see that the order of the columns have been changed. Okay, in the meantime, Claude, yeah, allow. In the meantime, Claude, figure out something. I hope it will save the files as soon as possible. Frosting, something. Okay. Okay, created 2 files. We're done. Great. So let's inject the repository that Claude created. Repository. And let's use those items from the repository in our grid. Cannot find customer repository. Why? Okay, hot reload again. So what Claude did, created the Spring JPA repository, which is like a simple one. And in the data initializer, it created some random data. Okay. Let's refresh. And voila, we have people here in the list. By default, grid supports selection, sorting. That one is pretty simple because it's in memory list, so it uses the comparators to sort. In normal application, you will have to provide some external provider of the data from your database, which will handle sorting on that level, but we're not going through that on this demo. Okay, so if we have a grid, let's try to edit those fields somehow. So what I would do, I will create a new form, customer form, which now extends not vertical layout, extends form layout component. Form layout component is a responsive layout, which organizes the fields in columns and rows depending on the available space and the viewport size. Like for mobile, they will be in one column, and for the wide screen, it will be in the multiple columns. So if I do a trick that my field names are matching the bean properties, what was their email and not phone? There was, let's use date picker for birth date, and let's use email field. Email field is in general a text field, but with some email specific validators. Okay, I think those were that. First name, last name, email, birth date. Okay.
You've got a typo.
Where birth. Perfect. Okay. Let's initialize those fields. Can be in this way. Okay. Let's add those fields. Okay. Let's add that form to our view. Okay. Will it work? Oh, I need to hot swap something. Yeah, it works, but it's here. Okay. Maybe I can zoom out a bit. Yeah, it's visible. Okay, so I have my form here, but obviously nothing happens when I click because I need some logic to join the selection from the grid with my form. There is something called the binder. Binder, as the name states, binds the model with the form components. So let's create a binder. It will be a binder for the customer. We will use the implementation of the binder called bean validation binder. I will later tell why. And there is a shorthand method, bind instance fields. If the form has matching fields with the properties of the bin, they will be bound automatically. In other way, I need to do it one by one. Now let's add some API to our form. Set customer. Okay. And let's tell binder to set bin. What will happen is that if I pass the customer here, the binder will match the fields from the bin and set them into my components automatically. What we now need to do, we now need to do selection. We need to add selection listener. So after user selects something on our grid, we want to set that item on our form. So from the selection event, we are taking the first selected item. It supports multi-selection, as I mentioned previously, or else null, or else because user might deselect. And now, if I change if I select the item in a grid, you can see that my form is being automatically populated with the items from the selection. And if I deselect, it's being cleared. To make it more elegant even, we can make the form visible only when the selection is not empty. So set visible customer not equals null. Okay, now there is no form, and if I pick something, the form is being displayed below. Yeah, looks cool. Now let's add one more thing. Now let's save those data. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create button, save button, add it to my form, save button. Okay, and I need somehow handle the event after clicking the button. Because I want to do multiple things at once, I want to refresh my grid, I want to persist, I want to persist the entity. I can pass those references to those repository and grid in a constructor, but it won't be elegant, so I will do something like that I will create add save button click listener, which in general I will put consumer here because it will be easier to understand if it's a consumer. Otherwise, in normal application, I would put the implementation of the I would use the Vadin click listener here. And now, if we add the save button click listener on the save button click, I just want to handle that selected. I just want to handle the current model values from our form by given listener. So the consumer, let's call it consumer. Okay, so consumer will just accept binder get bin. Okay. What will happen now if we click save button? Save button will send the current bin to our consumer. And now in our grid view, in our customers view, we can add the consumer for that. So if the user clicks the button, what we want to do? We want our repository to save the changed entity, and we want our grid to reload items. Okay. Let's see if it works. So we have a Steven. Let's change it to, I don't know, Nick. And there is a save button. When I click it, the Nick is here. So you can see that I'm not cheating. After refreshing, the Nick is still here. So the change has been persisted. Okay. Now, let's create something new. Now, we are going to create simple OpenAI chat application in the lowest required effort. So again, we're starting from my favorite vertical layout. Again, we are annotating that, hey, it must be a view. And we will put in our view, we need a prompt field, which will be just a text field. And we need a button, which will be like prompt or submit or whatever button, which will send our prompt. Okay, so let's add those to my view. Let's rerun the application because one more time I've created new class, so the hot swap agent got lost. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah, something is here. Okay, I don't like the look of that. I would like to have them in one row. Okay, let's put it like this so you will see the change. Okay, so what I need to do, I need to wrap those two fields into the horizontal layout. Let's call it prompt layout. It will be horizontal layout this time. And let's add those two fields to my prompt layout. Prompt layout, oh, perfect. And now I'm adding that layout as a child of my vertical layout. So now the fields are aligned horizontally. I want to make the input wider to take the full available space. So I'm using the API of the component. First, I want my prompt layout to take the full available space. There is set width 100 and there is also set width full method. And I want to tell my prompt layout to expand the prompt field. Expand method is a shortcut for setting flex attributes to the component on the front end. So now, as you can see, that one is wider. It takes the whole available space, which is what I wanted. Now let's inject the chat client builder to call the OpenAI. From the builder, we are creating the client. Okay, we've got a client, so now we can prompt. When we prompt, when we click the button add click listener. That one is already known to everyone. And what to do when user clicks? We need to call a client, prompt with the field value, what we type in the input, and then call it, and then we get the content. So we have a content, and that content we are adding to our view. In general, the OpenAI chat outputs the response, returns the response in form of the markdown. So I will create the markdown component. That one is also from Vaadin. It does what the name states. It just renders the content of the markdown in the nice way. So let's add markdown component here. And I want that content to be set in my markdown field. Yeah, now I did an injection, so probably I need to restart application one more time. And let's see if it works. Okay. Hello, okay. What is Gdańsk? Now, when I'm sending my prompt, the operation is done synchronously. So you see the progress bar on the top, which means that Vaadin is still processing the request. Why we are processing the request? Because I've called the client prompt call. It's a synchronous call. So I'm waiting for the full content of my response. Oh, and it's been shown here. And I'm waiting for the full content of my response, and it's put here at the one operation. In normal chat clients, what happens is that you see some kind of loader, and then gradually the response is being appended to the output field. So let's try to simulate it. To do the same, I need to allow Vaadin to process the operation in the background and then asynchronously push the changes to the front end. To enable push, I need to mark my configuration with the push annotation. For interested people, it's using Atmosphere framework under the hood with the web sockets. Yeah, web sockets. Okay, so now we have a push. And to be able to access the UI in asynchronous manner, first of all, we need to have UI reference. We can do that in simplest way by calling the UI get current. And UI has a method named UI access. We need to call that method because it logs the threads. It provides the safety of the thread safety of those asynchronous operations from the Vaadin perspective. So what we now want to do, I can comment that one. We want our client also to prompt the same, but now we want a stream. And now the stream gives us the flags of the strings on which we need to subscribe. So for each chunk of the response received from the OpenAI, we want to append that chunk to our markdown field. So when the chunk comes, we are accessing the connection to our UI and appending the content to the markdown field. Okay, now tell me jokes about Java developers. Okay, now what we see or not see, now we should see the okay, something wrong here. Bad request, completions, stack trace. Okay, let's get value, stream content. Yeah, Python would be great. Yeah, let's switch to Python. That was the case for sure. I'm always putting here like tell jokes about Gdańsk people or something, but someone might get offended. So yeah, I think the Python will be fine. Tell me a joke about Python developers. Okay. Okay, now it should be fine. You might notice that the progress bar just like blinked because it was short one. Tell me 10 jokes. Okay, you might notice that the loading indicator on the top was like just blinking because the request went to Vaadin and there was like, okay, I've got it. And on the background, the call to the OpenAI has been made. And after it is being processed, the response should be here like, yeah, we don't have any spinner or whatever, so I don't see the status. If it's processing the request or not, let's try it one more time. Yeah, there are some OpenAI UI detached. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to show you how it gradually appends the content in the push mode because that looks pretty cool. Okay. Okay. So now it should process the prompt and probably, or I'm even sure that not funny jokes because OpenAI cannot tell funny jokes. So they should be appended here in a minute. The one last thing I want to show, I will ask Claude again to create a dashboard using some of the paid components that we have. Because in general, most of the, now we can see that the response is being appended together with the chunks coming from the OpenAI. Together with the free open source part, there is also a paid part of the Vaadin because we need to earn money to be alive. And the part of those paid components are the are the charts. So what I'm doing, I'm asking the Claude to create me the dashboard for the customers that we have generated previously. It will take, I know, a minute or two. In that time, does anyone have any questions so I can fill my time for the moment? Yeah.
What are the limitations of this framework? Because for me, it seems like if Spring is updated, you also need to probably update this framework. So it's like they might be not compatible, and it complicates things in production from my point.
The latest Vaadin version is always using the latest stable Spring version. If we look backwards for the previous releases, of course, there are incompatibilities. For example, current version 25 is using Spring 4. But if we jump back to Vaadin 24 point something, you will probably get the Spring 3.9 something something. I don't remember what was the last free version. But the fun fact, today has been released Vaadin 25.1. And yesterday we updated Spring to 404 because it was released, I know, the day before, 2 days before, something like that. So the Vaadin stays in sync with the Spring and also with other dependencies that are used. We try always be up to date, not to give people the deprecated APIs or whatever warnings they might see.
But if like I update the Spring, I have to update probably Vaadin as well. So it's like double the work.
First of all, the Spring is not required to run Vaadin application. I'm doing the demo on the Spring Boot setup because it's the easiest. There is also the pure Vaadin without Spring. You can run it on Tomcat or whatever other app container without Spring in it. So if you decide to use Vaadin together with the Spring, they need to go in sync. If you update manually Spring, and you see in your dependencies that something is wrong, that you have, I know, 2 different versions of Spring, or that there are some incompatibilities reported by Vaadin, yeah, you need to update Vaadin also. Okay, give me a second. Now the dashboard has been created. Yeah, I forgot about one thing. There is no menu in the application. Yeah. Okay, so we have a bunch of views, but we don't have it in form of the application. In normal application, you have a menu. You have a menu where you can jump from one view to another. So let's do the same here. To put the views in form of application, we are using layouts. Layouts are yet another components that have some special part when the other components that are registered as a roots are being rendered. One of the most common layouts component is called app layout. It has a top bar and it has a drawer on the left. So let's use that one. Of course, there can be multiple layouts in Vaadin application. To mark the layout as default, I'm using the layout annotation. Let's put some text to the navbar, which is the top bar. Hello, JUG. Okay, and now let's run it. Let's see if our views will render in the layout. One more thing, I've got in each of my view the root that has path taken from the class name. So if you do not define explicitly the root, it will be figured out from the class name. So here will be hello. If I put the empty value, it will be the default root. Root. Okay. Let's give it a second to boot up. Is it running? Okay. The dependencies have been added by Claude, so I need to reload because IntelliJ got lost.
What dependency?
To charts. Yeah, and as we have already the charts in place, I will show them, but to show the charts, I need to switch my dependency from Vaadin core, which is by default, and it's a free Vaadin version, to Vaadin paid, which is just Vaadin. That one contains pro items, the pro components, and the Vaadin core does not. Okay, now it should be fine.
Could you mention some limitations of free framework? So you mentioned that there are two versions, paid and free one. What are the differences?
The differences are mostly in the components. Previously, there is something also called Vaadin Copilot, which is the developer toolkit, in a sense. It has some AI features, like it can generate the view from an image, or it can generate a data service from your prompt or whatever. And there are some features that are paid, were paid until today, because from Vaadin 25.1, all the Copilot previously paid features are free. So the AI is also for free since today. So yeah, it's pretty fresh thing. Okay, so now you see that I'm on the default view. There is nothing here, and there is a navbar here. So let's add a menu here. It will be a quick one. So to register view for our menu, we need to annotate that view with the menu annotation, obviously. Title. Hello, here we give title. Then we have the customers view. Here we don't give title. We have dashboard view. We will also not put title here, just to make it quicker. And the last view, menu. Okay, now they will be in menu. But how to get them? We need to call the utility, which is called menu configuration. No, not like this. Menu configuration. And there is a helper method get many entries. And for each many entry, I want to add to my drawer some link that will allow me to navigate from view to view. The components that provide the navigation are called the router links, and they require a label, so it will be title, and they require a target, which is the class. Okay, now we should have all at once. That menu won't look perfect because I'm in a hurry, but there is a separate side nav component which much more beautiful look and feel of the navigation. But
So if you would love to customize the components somehow, each field in the CSS has its own class in Java, or how do we customize it?
okay, one short look. If you go to the Vaadin docs, to the documentation, if you open any component you want, like a button, there, come on, there is, or there isn't, yeah, there is separate styling section. And here you have everything from the variants, how the button might look, to the, those are the variants still, to the variables, yeah, here, to the CSS variables that allow you to modify almost everything in the component. Of course, you can use the standard CSS selectors, but the CSS variables approach is the recommended one because it's the easiest.
I think he meant other way around, so to have like an ID or name on a field, so it could be customized from the CSS externally.
Yeah, I can add hello view. Each component has its API, both for, I can do set ID, I can do add class name for CSS, and I can also access styles directly. I can access style, and we have a lot of helper methods for setting style, or if you want to go like raw, very raw, you can access the HTML element and modify the HTML element directly from the Java code. Okay, so we have our main layout marked with layout, public main layout with the navbar, many entries. Okay, I think add to drawer, new router link for entry. Okay, now it should work. Or I missed something, I don't know. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Can I ask one annoying question?
Even 10 or
Yeah, like I can imagine that I have a choice. I can pay for subscription for Cursor that can generates me like any Angular or React or whatever application I want, or I can pay for Vaadin. Why I should choose Vaadin instead of Cursor? I can generate basically anything with Cursor, like any front-end application.
if you have vibe coding on your mind,
Yeah, kinda, yes.
gently speaking, I'm not a huge fan
Okay.
of vibe coding because I like to know what's happening in the application that I'm building. If you go to the vibe coding approach, I will just tell about the menu and then we'll go to Q&A. Okay, so I've used the component to toggle the drawer, and as I mentioned that many components are responsive in the Vaadin, so that same happened to the menu. If I zoom in, so the size of the application seems like it should be mobile, the menu is hidden and it goes on from the left side by default. If I zoom out, the menu is back here. That's the big viewport, and the menu toggles like this. So that's one of the cool features, it's responsive. And then when I click the buttons, you see, oh, that's our layout, and that's our dashboard. If I click the buttons, you see I've moved from view to view. And that is the dashboard created from our JPA repository items that we have. It's using Vaadin components like different types of charts. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you. Now, getting back to the questions about vibe coding against Vaadin. You can vibe code Vaadin also. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
You can.
with vibe coding, I have like options because if at one point I will choose to go with another front end, I have flexibility because my front end is not tightly coupled to the back end. So
Yeah, of course.
I can hire front end developers with Vaadin. I would need to search the market to check who actually wants to learn it. So it's kind of more difficult.
Yeah, but Vaadin does not answer that question, how to deal with the different front-end technologies. Because in Vaadin, we are talking about a full-stack approach. So maybe I'm not like a target solution for your case. If you want to go YOLO and vibe code Vaadin application, yeah, you can ask Claude to do that. It will. If you want to ask Claude to create a front-end application, for sure it will pick one of the front-end technologies. It won't look even into the Vaadin. But if you specify that you're a Java developer, you want this and that, you can put even our Vaadin MCP that checks the documentation, and you will get really nice Vaadin applications vibe coded also. But
Okay.
I personally don't vibe code. Any other? Yeah.
I would like to ask the question. So, is it possible to inject somehow directly JavaScript libraries in the Vaadin application? If
Yes.
you need some kind of flexibility.
Yes, it's possible to use own JavaScript components. If you create a component, there is JS import. I don't remember. There is a JS module. There is a way to connect existing front-end components, even the web components and pure JavaScript components, with the components with the Java API in the backend. There is documentation page about how to do that, but it's possible. And you can also execute JavaScript from Vaadin. It's
So
not a
there
problem.
is some way to execute some, I don't know, methods from the Java and JavaScript as well together, right?
Yeah, if you, I don't remember if it's through the UI or it's through the, if it's through the component API, first name, or is the, I think there's even a separate utility, but it's possible to execute JavaScript directly from Java, from Vaadin.
Thank you for the presentation. And my question is, are you familiar with GWT?
Yeah.
So
time.
please-
Yeah, good.
So could you please list some advantages of Vaadin over the
Okay, advantages of GWT over Vaadin. I'm done. Advantages of Vaadin over GWT. Looking back forward, Vaadin started from JWT, but it was really painful. It was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. It was really painful. I've been there as a Vaadin user back then. And if I needed to debug frontend created with JWT, I was literally crying while working with it because it was terrible. Then, at some point of time, at Vaadin 10 or 14 times, I don't remember, we switched to web components. So in general, the advantage is that in theory, you can use any web components you want. You can go to npm.js, I think, and look for any web component that you want. You can adapt it very easily to work with your Vaadin application. Because the front end now is running on Vite, it's a container for the web applications, and the communication with Vaadin, which is run as a servlet on the backend, is kind of an independent. So if you put another web components by installing them by npm install something, you can easily use them. So that's one of the biggest advantage. The second one is, in my opinion, the web components are better, easier, and modern. I'm not sure. I didn't use JWT after it has been removed from Vaadin. None of my personal project is using it. So I prefer that approach. Yeah.
Okay. I used GWT before, and to be honest, it was painless, especially if you need to support it to Net Explorer 8. So it was 8 years ago. So how is it to make a hack inviting to a particular browser?
To do what? One more time. A hack for what?
One of the issues I faced with that Google Web Toolkit framework, that one of the components didn't display it properly in Internet Explorer. So I did it now.
And outside were dinosaurs walking.
So let's say we need to do some hack or Safari because there is Web Toolkit not Chrome. How is it to change behavior on one browser?
Okay, first of all, our web components are supposed to support all modern browsers. So we have separate team working on the web components. Those are designers, front-end developers that work on that one. But if you have a problem with your web component, I don't know in which way it might not work. If the JavaScript is failing because of some non-compatible API or the styling is wrong, it's probably because of your project. To be honest, we are doing a lot of compatibility testing before anything is pushed to production. So there is, in each component, there should be a note somewhere which browsers are supported. And I believe, I didn't check that recently, but I believe that most modern browsers will be supported without any issues. If you run a current Vaadin application in Internet Explorer 6, for sure it won't look perfect, but nothing looks perfect in that browser. So I would look for the fix on your side, in your project. You can modify the component, you can inject JavaScript, you can change the CSS properties or whatever. So I don't know if it answers your questions, but Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
But we have a warm pizza, so I would like to invite you to the break. And the rest of the questions should be asked during the break. And I would like to also ask you not to bring the food to this inside. You can enjoy the pizza outside. Thank you very much. And
Yeah, thank you. One more thing, the laptop stickers with Vaadin and the beautiful reindeer are here. You can pick those, and I know Adam also put his stickers here, so you're welcome. Thank you.